Good morning, student. Today is 19 January and we are here to discuss the Hindu newspaper analysis. Our main focus is UPSC examination 2026, and so we'll cover the current affairs part, whichever is necessary, covering the pre and mains both. Let's get started. The first article is about how should India tackle child trafficking. Child trafficking is one of the major concern, especially in developed or underdeveloped nations. Recently, the Supreme Court in KP Kiran Kumar versus State has issued a strict guideline to prevent the child trafficking, protected under Article 23 of Fundamental Rights. The Supreme Court emphasized that it violates child fundamental right to life. Thus, it also covers under Article 21 as per the Constitution in India. In 2022, 3000, the data here, the article talks about the data to show this, to substantiate how child trafficking case is being witnessed. So in 2022, there was 3098 children were rescued. These are the cases where they were rescued. Between April 2024 to March 2025, but the conviction rate from 2018 to 2022 was only 4.8%. So there is very less conviction rate, approx 4.8%. The Palermo Protocol. This is important information for us. Palermo Protocol. It deals with child trafficking. It defines actually and child trafficking as a recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of a child for exploitation purposes. Section 143 of Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita (BNS) also defines trafficking. Constitution does not define, but the BNS defines it. Trafficking has involved threat, force, coercion, abduction, fraud, deception, abuse of power, or inducement for exploitation, including slavery and organ removal. Thus making an punishable offense. Constitution of India protects children under Article 23, as we have already talked about 23 and 24, where 24 talks about the child labor and 23 talks about the child trafficking or human trafficking as such, from forced labor or hazardous employment. Article 39 clause E and F ensure children are not abused and are given opportunities to develop freedom and dignity. Thus, the most important information we can note down from here, that the Constitution protection to children from their exploitation. One is under Article 23, which talks about trafficking, under Article 24, which talks about child labor, forced labor, or employment in hazardous industries. Then we got the DPSPs under Article 39E and F. These are the articles which make sure that they are given the opportunities to develop their own personality. BNS section 98-99 address the selling and buying of minors. The Immoral Traffic Prevention Act. This act, Traffic Prevention Act 1956, and Juvenile Justice Care Act 2015. This is the legal issues. Immoral Traffic Prevention Act and Juvenile Justice Care Act provide for prevention and rehabilitation of traffic victims. The Criminal Law Amendment Act 2013 includes a comprehensive definition of trafficking. POSCO Act also deals with it. 2012, it defines offenses like sexual assault, child pornography, punishment including the imprisonment or death penalty. It is a gender neutral, and 400 fast track courts are set up for the rapid trials that we had already read about. There was 400 fast track courts to deal with these cases related to POSCO to take the speedy justice. Judicial approach include Vishal Jeet versus Union of India 1990, emphasizing a preventive approach to trafficking, and MC Mehta versus State of Tamil Nadu, prohibiting child employment in hazardous industries. Bachpan Bachao Andolan versus Union of India 2011 addressed the child exploitation and trafficking. So here we come to know about the cases through which court have in with the time has tried to protect the rights of the children. One becomes more important, that MC Mehta versus Union Tamil Nadu, Tamil Nadu case. One second case can be Bachpan Bachao Andolan versus Union of India. So this addressed the child exploitation and trafficking. MC Mehta addressed the child employment in hazardous factories. Socioeconomic vulnerabilities like poverty, unemployment, family breakdown contributes to a child trafficking. This article address the cause, including poverty, unemployment, and family breakdown are considered as the contributing factor to child trafficking. Article asked or suggest government to protect child rights and improve conviction rate to deter traffickers, and strong union state relationship is crucial as law and order and police are state subjects. So this is all about the child trafficking as it has been defined by the Palermo Protocol, that any kind of traffic as a recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of a child for exploitation. Even the BNS define it. The Palermo Protocol defines it. A child traffickings, any kind of abduction, coercion, fraud, deception, abuse of power for the child exploitation, or including the slavery and organ removal. Recently, there was a data that in 2022, 3,998 children were rescued, but the conviction rate between 2024 to 25 was 4.8%. Thus, we need to increase this conviction rate in order that to create a threat to the traffickers, because most of the traffickers escape through loopholes, through bribery, through corruption, or maybe even because of political nexus or any. There could be a lot of reasons through which they can escape, and so we need to increase our conviction rate. Conviction rate mainly does not high. There could also be cases where there is lack of evidence. The police or the investigation agencies do not get the proper evidence out of it, so this also becomes a cause of lower conviction rate. Palermo rate defining it, and traffic, child trafficking. There is a constitutional safeguard for the children rights. One is fundamental rights under Article 23, 24. There is DPSP, which covers 39 E and F. There is legal, we got the legal initiatives also, like Immoral Traffic Prevention Act, Juvenile Justice Care Act, POSCO Act. There are Supreme Court judgments with the time, like MC Mehta versus Tamil Nadu, Bachpan Bachao Andolan versus Union of India. Thus, overall, the protecting the child rights so that giving them opportunities and develop their own personality. The next article is about India-Germany ties. There was recently a defense pact signed between India and Germany, and thus the Prime Minister Narendra Modi and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz kite flying in Ahmedabad symbolizes strength in India-Germany partnership. India, Germany, the third and the fourth largest economies, because the India becomes the third, Germany becomes the fourth. So India and Germany, the third and fourth largest economies respectively, are poised for mutual economic benefits, as India is expected to overtake Germany in economic ranking, highlighting the non-zero sum nature of global economics. The Chancellor Merz emphasized the need for free trade agreements between Europe and India, which still we are coping up with. And recently there was an incident where Piyush Goyal, the Ministry he's a Ministry of Industries, he told that it would fetch a good result for Indian economy if we try to deal and quoting it with the mother of all deals, mother of all FTA. So now this has been emphasized by the Germany also, that there is a requirement of free trade agreement with the Europe, and marking his first visit outside the Western allies. During his visit, he visited the Ahmedabad and he did a kite flying with the Prime Minister Modi. And during his visit, Chancellor Merz interacted with young Indians moving to Germany, people who are studying abroad, showcasing adaptability and perseverance of Indians. There is also Germany recently in 2026 celebrates 75 years of diplomatic ties with India. So this also becomes a more important. Thus, the whole year, the coming year, is expected to witness significant progress in India-Germany relationship, culminating PM Modi's visit to Germany for biennial intergovernmental consultation. Thus, PM Modi will be visiting Germany and for the biennial intergovernmental consultation, making a year more cooperative, more productive for and more as much can be worked in order to boost the Indian economy. Next topics here discuss about participatory science key to coconut wilt flight. Recently, there was a phytoplasma included a root wilt disease. Root wilt disease. This becomes an important root wilt disease has severely impacted the coconut. Thus, the point itself clears that there are many times in the prelims questions where there has been asked diseases related to wheat, rice. So that is why this keyword becomes important. Root wilt disease, which is related to coconut growing areas, especially these are, of course, the coconut has been grown, most of the coconut has been produced in southern regions, so most of the state will be affected is that Karnataka, Kerala, Tamil Nadu. These are the states which are mostly affected because they together accounts for 82 to 83% of India's coconut production. Thus, the disease first identified over 150 years ago in Kerala, which is spread through insect vectors and is exacerbated by the climate change and new pests like white flies. So, this becomes an also important information that this is a vector root wilt disease. Vector is whitefly, and thus disease is spreading in these areas. And this has been exacerbated by the climate change. Recently, Central Plantation Crops Research Institute (CPCRI). This is a body, Indian government body, which works for the plantation crops and research into that. So recently, the CPCRI, the Central Plantation Crop Research Institute in Kayakulam, has been researching the disease for over 150 years without finding a definitive cure. The disease rapid expansion has affected over 30 lakh coconut palms, with areas like Polachi facing additional challenge due to intercropping system with cocoa and nutmeg. Thus, breeding resistant and tolerant varieties is proven method for managing phytoplasma as seen globally. Importing such varieties under the strict quarantine protocol is an option, but utilizing the genetic wealth in farmers' field is more sustainable approach. The rapid spread of root wilt disease, similar to a white fly pest, necessitates urgent action. Farmers can benefit from royalty mechanism under the protection of plant. That is, this is the Act, Protection of Plant Variety and Farmers' Rights Act. This is the act, and this has been an important act for protections of farmers' right, because it allows the farmers to produce their own seeds and sell it through through cross breedings, or to produce their own variation of seeds to enhance the production, and thus this becomes an supporting measure for the farmers income. Coordinated institutional action is essential, with central agencies like CPCRI and Coconut Development Board collaborating with agricultural universities. And thus, these are the bodies which are promoting the research for these root wilt disease, and thus we need to find a solution to cure it. Next topic talks about there is a fill vacancy faculty position within the 4 months. The Supreme Court has guidelined it. Supreme Court has highlighted the issue arising from massification and privatization of higher education in India, which has led to chronic vacancies and student distress despite high enrollment rates. Under Article 142 of the Constitution, the court directed that vacant faculty position in higher education institutions must be filled within 4 months, and appointments of vice chancellor and registrar should occur within a month of vacancies. The court ordered the clearance of pending scholarship disbursement within 4 months. The court noted the alarming rise in student suicide, and there is describing it as an epidemic proportion, and linked it to the lack of institutional support despite the national education policy target of 50% gross enrollment ratio by 2035. The Supreme Court appointed National Task Force found that rigid attendance policies, overburdened curricula, faculty shortage, poor placement, and significant stressor for the students. And thus, the government or the Supreme Court has directed the government to fill the vacancies and make the higher education more robust. There is an article where it talks about the crisis in education. The Supreme Court of India has issued 9 direction. Yes, see, issued 9 direction to central government and state governments to governments as such in case related to student suicide. Student suicides highlighting issues in higher education due to privatization without quality enhancement. This the Supreme Court asked the government to fill the vacancies to especially in the higher education because of shortage of faculties there. The education system, the whole class system, whole education systems get hampered. So under article taking the cognizance of about the issues by the Supreme Court, under article 142 it asks for the uh, filling the vacancies position of registrar, vice chancellors and faculty positions. Filling faculty position requires adherence to UGC process, a primary body uh, which controls the higher education system in India. And the Supreme Court has given the timeline 4 months in that the whole process should be taken. Next article talks about in weather science, visibility refers to meteorological optical range, defined as distance a beam of light can travel through the atmosphere before its intensity reduces to 5% of its original value. Historically, visibility was measured by human observers using landmarks at known distances, such as water tower at 1 kilometer or a temple at 5 kilometer, and lights of known intensity at night. The modern weather stations use a sensor to measure visibility, employing direct and indirect method involving laser beams and light scattering. The Indian Meteorological Department classifies visibility based on smoke intensity with category ranging from 5000 to 1000 meter for shallow fog to less than 50 meter of very dense fog. And on a recent Sunday, the visibility in Delhi was classified as poor with a range of 550 to 200 meter indicating significant smoke presence. So the article talks about visibility. It talks about that what is a meteorological optic range. This is how the visibility is defined, that if the light can travel sorry if the light can travel to a distance in the atmosphere before its intensity reduces to 5%. This is how the meteorological optical range, which is called visibility, meteorological optical range, has been defined. And earlier there were older methods like observers used to be there, which finds out the visibility range. But now we, especially the IMD, calculate the visibility based on smoke intensity with categories ranging from 500 to 1000 meter for shallow fogs and 50 meter for very dense fog. And this is the news came because of recently the Delhi has been categorized as very poor visibility. The next article talks about corruption, a prior sanction, a divided house. On January 13, Supreme Court bench delivered a split verdict on constitutional validity of Section 17A of Prevention of Corruption Act 1988. Prevention of Corruption Act 1988 in CPIL versus Union of India case, which require prior government sanction for investigating public servants. The case was CPIL versus Union of India. The Supreme Court gave the verdict that prior government sanction for investigating public servant. The petitioner argued that Section 17A of Prevention and Corruption Act 17A is unconstitutional, citing a past judgment like Vineet Narayan versus Union of India case, Dr. Subramaniam Swamy versus Director of CBI, which struck down the similar provision as violative of Article 14 and promoting corruption. And thus, the there was an argument against the verdict of this, that earlier there was cases where it was struck down based on under Article 14 of fundamental right that talks about equality, and thus these provisions, if these existed, will promote the corruption in the administration and politics. How the government defended it? The government defended Section 17A, distinguishing it from past judgments by arguing that it is legislative provision unlike the administrative single directive previously struck down. Thus, Justice Nagaratna found Section 17A unconstitutional, arguing it protects corrupt official by requiring private government sanction, which creates a conflict of interest and impedes investigation. Conflict of interest. Justice Vishwanathan agreed that government control over sanctions is unconstitutional but upheld the need for prior sanction, suggesting an independent agency like Lokpal should handle approvals to prevent misuse. The court disagreement between the judges is whether prior approval is an unconstitutional barrier or if an independent agency can make it constitutional, with the matter referred to larger bench for the resolution. So there was an argument for this. One was in support of it to keep the Section 17A, where the investigation agencies had to take the prior government sanctions for charging or for trial of the public servants. Thus, there was one party which talks about the promotion of corruption. It uh, it 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 is a case of clear case of conflict of interest. It impedes investigation. The other party, the government which protects the act, talks about that this is constitutional because they are the investigation agencies which worked on these cases independently, and the but also to avoid the misuse of the provision in order to stop the bureaucracy to do their businesses. So this was the articles all about. The next article is about India's power utilities profit, that is rupees 2701 crore financial 2024. The India power distribution utilities including distribution companies, that is DISCOMs. DISCOMs has been a power distribution. It has uh, it has the work of job of power distribution in India. Recently, we witnessed we saw the various debates where these discoms were running in losses. There was a lot of pending finances, pending loans, and I would rather say pending bills on the governments, and because of that, the company was in very stressed situation. But recently, the power department posted a net profit of 2701 crores, that reversing the years of losses. It reverses years of losses. Thus, we can show the revivalism of that company, because the distribution of electricity, the power energy, is a various is a very very of important concerns for the India in developing countries like India, because there is a lot of reasons which creates the hurdle in distribution of powers, whether it is where we say we used to we used to tie the wires from in between and just doing an energy theft. There was a case where people were not paying the bill. There were the cases where government has lots of pending bills. So these are the things, the energy losses, because there is very much loss of energy while distributing the energy from one point to other point. So these created a cases where discoms as a company got into huge stress, and thus recently the the department which posted that these companies in 2024 financial years concluded with a net profit of 2700, thus creating a revivalism, thus creating strengthening the company again. This is state run discoms reduced their losses by approximately 80% from 2023 to 2025, contributing significantly. The utilities incurred loss of 67,000 crores, which was reduced to 25,000 crore in 2023-24, highlighting a significant improvement over the years. The Electricity Amendment Bill 2026, expected to be tabled in Parliament during the budget session, is anticipated to further enhance the profitability of power distribution sector. Thus, in a recent upcoming budget, there is a suggestion of electricity amendment bill which will which have the various provisions related to modernization of power supply. More accountable data should be provided, and thus it will overall um, improve the energy supply in India. The next topic, the next article talks about that India invited to join Gaza Peace Board. The proposed board by the United States President Donald Trump, and he invited the India to join the Board of Peace for Gaza, which aims to provide governance structure for Gaza Strip as a part of Trump's peace plan. The board will oversee funding for Gaza redevelopment. It talks about Gaza redevelopment until the Palestinian Authority completes a reform program. The Board of Peace, in which recently India got invited, announced by Trump on social media, will be headed by him and include other members and heads of state such as UK's former Prime Minister Tony Blair. The plan was first introduced on September 2025, but during a meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Hamas agreed to release 48 hostages in exchange for Palestinian prisoners in Israeli jails. Following the announcements of this, the this peace plan was announced in September 2025, where the both party agrees to release the prisoners of war and supervise the board committee. The US planned to work with international partner to establish a temporary international stabilization force ISF for Gaza, but India will not participate as it is not a UN peacekeeping force. Because ISF is a proposed by Trump, and thus India choose to be away from it because it is not part of the UN peacekeeping force. Prime Minister Modi welcomed the peace plan, acknowledging Netanyahu's leadership. Countries like Jordan, Greece, Cyprus, and Pakistan have also received invitation to join the board. The US Ambassador Sergio Gore shared Trump's invitation later to Prime Minister Modi on social media, but India has not yet responded. Thus, this is the news of the day. There was also a one news where it talks about Kaziranga corridor. Kaziranga National Park, located in Assam, and Prime Minister Modi has laid the foundation stone for the Kaziranga elevated corridor and flagged off the two Amrit Bharat train from Assam's Kaliabor, highlighting BJP's growing popularity. The 86-kilometer Kaziranga corridor elevated a four-lane national highway project including 35 km of elevated road through Kaziranga National Park. Thus, the Kaziranga National Park becomes an important, famous for its one-horned rhino and one-horned rhinos. It covers the largest population of one-horned rhinos. Kaziranga National Park, located in Assam, and there are also some other information which we need to know about the Kaziranga. So please, if you have to give the prelims, please visit the any sites, or even you can prefer the study materials so that you can get the important information related to Kaziranga, which has a chances to come in UPSC prelims. So this is all about today's news. Thank you for watching.